Hi everyone, my name is Zoë Malcolm and welcome to the For Intimacies podcast, where we explore trust, connection, and, well, intimacy. I hope that you listen to the little trailer because it gives us a good place to start from, a foundation of non-judgment and acceptance. And in these times, I want to make it clear. These terms do not mean be passive or turn a blind eye. Acceptance is about being in the moment and letting it be real. This is happening. No need for self-betrayal or deception. This is real. Accept it. And non-judgment. This is about not judging your feelings as they come up, not fearing your emotions, including fear. Fear is not a bad emotion, but being afraid of your emotions of fear or anger leads to repression, leads to more fear, anxiety, or even explosions of words or actions that you may want to take back or not. In either case, acceptance and non-judgment are about being rooted in your values, your integrity, and your dignity. And from that rooted place, you can set boundaries or let your guard down because you trust yourself. Either way, let your voice be heard or protect your silence. You get to decide. Now, these ideas of non-judgment and acceptance are easier said than done sometimes. I know. We will dig more into acceptance and non-judgment in another episode, but with the times we're going through right now, I wanted us to be clear that this practice of intimacy, while it can be an internal process, is not a passive practice. You have choices, and the best choices are rooted in your integrity. Okay. Last week, we talked about intellectual attraction and intimacy. We got a good grounding in some definitions, like attraction is a practice of one. Intimacy is a practice of two. Healthy intimacy is a practice of trust. And the key word for intellectual attraction and intimacy is curiosity. So let's dive right into the next attraction-intimacy pair, emotional. I'm going to tell you a secret. Well, now, not a secret, but this is my favorite intimacy. Yeah, I know, I shouldn't have favorites, but I do. And really, this one is my favorite because this was the one I knew so little about. Emotional honesty just sounded painful, a literal stab in the heart. Who would ever do this? For all my own intense feelings, and I listened to so many emotionally devastating songs, I realize now emotional intimacy was not something I experienced growing up. So I just assumed no one would want to. That's how childhood conditioning works, right? But emotional intimacy gave birth to this framework after my divorce because I needed a way to understand why I fought and hid my emotions, why I kept on trying to make my hurt palatable for others and for myself. But ironically, emotional intimacy is the intimacy that heals parts of you you never knew needed healing. And that healing will ripple into your future and ripple back into your past, softening as it touches, reconfiguring and soothing your memories and your hopes. Healthy emotional intimacy is the foundation of love, of being fully seen, fully seeing another, and creating a trust that feels oceans deep. If any one intimacy pair is the marker for a healthy relationship, The emotional attraction intimacy pair is it. But before I get ahead of myself, let's define this pair. First up, emotional attraction. Attraction is a practice of one, but I will admit emotional attraction is hard to do without a practice of emotional intimacy. But there is still a level where this is your attraction. So let's break it down so that you are clear on what it feels like for you as an individual. I want you to be able to know if or when you want to proceed further into intimacy. An emotional attraction is when you feel you can tell the other person anything, or something about how they express their emotions draws you in. Emotional attraction is the sense that you can share deeply held, felt, vulnerable emotions with someone, such as fear, anger, shame, or even joy. It is also the sense that another person's vulnerable emotions are something you want to know more of. It is possible that a stoic person can be emotionally attractive because it gives you a sense of strength and a sense of safety in a secret well kept. Or the opposite, where someone who is clearly comfortable with expressing their emotions gives you a different sense of strength or safety in honesty. Some examples of where this can happen, as one-sided as it is when we experience great art. Movies, books, TV shows. We get immersed in the emotional world of these characters, and it feels almost like a relationship. You might not even like the character or have any similar interests, such as the intellectual attraction that I've talked about last episode. But we connect emotionally. But just as with intellectual attraction, it is not a relationship. And we know that. That is not shocking. Okay, another example of emotional attraction or how emotional attraction can happen is meeting people under traumatic experiences like war or natural disasters or combat. There's a level where suddenly a stranger can be the person you want to tell everything to, or you are the person someone suddenly feels they can fall apart with. There's a reason why people who have been in combat or violent situations together have an unshakable bond. It is one of the few male stereotypes where emotional bonding, emotional intimacy is expected and not ridiculed. But this really goes for everybody across genders, across nationalities. It's just being human. As you can see, the difference between emotional attraction and intimacy is quite thin, because I'm still talking about how you are interacting with someone else. So let's go straight to the intimacy definition. If intimacy is a practice of two, the question for emotional intimacy is this: when we are hurt, can we be honest? And to clarify, there can be a time when someone is being very emotionally vulnerable with you, but for you this feels inappropriate, not the time, or sadly you are not interested. It doesn't make you a bad person, it just means that emotional attraction is not there for you. You do not have to be emotionally available to people you don't want to be. Conversely, other people do not have to be emotionally available to you if they don't want to be. That is why it's good to know whether a relationship has a healthy intimacy, or specifically a healthy emotional intimacy, or whether you want to build one. Because you do get a choice. Intimacy is a practice, but it's a practice that you choose. Okay, let's break down the question. When we are hurt, can we be honest? It can be easy to talk about how you feel if you stubbed your toe or had a bad day at work. That kind of hurt is simple, non-confrontational. Or not. Maybe even that can be a lot to share for some people and or cultures. In some so-called close relationships, even this level of vulnerability will be met with dismissiveness and cries of, you're being sensitive, or you should toughen up, or even worse, the other person trying to one-up you. My day was worse, or I've had a headache all day. But let's assume these kind of hurts are relatively easy to communicate to even casual friends. Okay? Regardless, the sign of a healthy emotional intimacy is when you can answer yes to these questions. When the other person hurts me, can I tell them that they hurt me? When I hurt them, can they tell me that I hurt them? When the answer is yes, you have emotional honesty. You have a relationship that can heal both of you. You have a relationship that is comforting, where you both are fully seen, heard, and valued. Your worthiness as a person is not in question. Their worthiness is not in question. You can be whole even when you are hurting, fragile, broken, not at your best. These emotional intimacy questions will lead to uncomfortable questions that can last hours or days to explore what the answers mean to each of you. But these are precisely the conversations that build lasting and tender relationships, precisely because they allow you both to dig deep into wells of empathy, kindness, and trust. However, if either one of you are uncomfortable with a dynamic going this deep, the relationship will feel tight, compartmentalized, stressful, a duty, a chore, an obstacle course to navigate. You are on eggshells. You watch what you say or do for the right moment or a chance to ignore the moment. You mask, you keep secrets, you grow and hold resentment so slowly that suddenly you realize not only can't you say anything, you don't want to say anything. For so many people, we learn this holding back from an early age. We cannot say what we really feel. We cannot be or should not be emotionally honest. We learn that so young, and we think to ourselves, what use would that be? Just to be ignored or yelled at by the adults in our lives. Or we have also watched the adults in our lives hide their emotions. As children, we may have asked an adult, what is wrong? And the adult replied with, nothing, everything's fine. And you've watched them shrug off the pain in their eyes, or still the shakes in their hands, or straighten their spine. They modeled how to hide from hard emotions. This is how you were taught emotional intimacy is dangerous or unwelcome. If you are lucky, someone came into your life and showed you that what you felt is valuable and not only can be communicated, but must be communicated. Otherwise, how can they love you right? They want to love you the way you need to be loved. This is not strange or weird or a lot. This is love, my dears. Let me repeat that. They want to love you the way you need to be loved. And vice versa can be true for you. You want to love them the way they need to be loved. Meanwhile, unhealthy emotional intimacy feels like manipulation, is manipulation. When your emotions are denied, you don't feel that way. You're crazy, so weird. Or when your emotions are turned on you as an insult. You stubbed your toe, always so clumsy. Ugh, something in a derisive tone. It doesn't feel good because it strips your feelings of worth. It could strip you of your own worthiness and your right to be yourself, your authentic self in the world. Be wary of people who do this to you consistently. Be wary if you do this to other people. If you happen to catch yourself doing this, there is a simple, but not always easy, remedy. Apologize. As soon as possible, apologize that your actions harmed, denied, insulted, belittled, or ignored them, and make real amends to not do that again. Your apology will be well met. There are people who apologize but don't mean it. I'm going to assume those people are not going to listen to this. But regardless, this also means that you will get an apology from people who value your emotional honesty. Partly because apologizing is a sign they can tap into their own feelings. Your hurt hurts them. When you get an apology that takes accountability for their actions and your feelings, they are showing emotional intelligence. It is a sign that they appreciate emotional intimacy and want to nurture it, even if they don't always get it right. Same for you. Even if you don't always get it right. Yay. We are not all perfect at any of these intimacies. I wish we were, but perfection is not the goal. A healthy dynamic is the goal. The way to not be perfect at this and still have a healthy dynamic, still have a healing and nurturing relationship, apologize as soon as possible and take accountability for your actions, your words, your participation, and their impact and their experience. Always. So this kind of apology has a name. Repair. When any of the intimacies feel difficult, repair is the balm, the healing potion, the re-knitting of trust. Because the questions for a healthy intimacy, if you haven't yet noticed, require conflict, require discomfort. When we are hurt, when we disagree, it requires things to get difficult and uneasy. You will not know the quality of your intimacy if you are not willing to be in conflict, to be in discomfort. I'm not saying a relationship can't be lovely without conflict, but the depth of its ability to heal, soothe, create deep wells of trust will not be known until it gets hard, my dears. Can you rely on them when shit goes down? Can they rely on you? Perhaps in another episode, we can talk about how to be in conflict and have it not be so scary. But for now, let's review before we get to the journal prompts. First, emotional attraction is feeling comfortable or appreciating the way someone expresses their emotions, or you feel like you can tell them anything. The question for emotional intimacy is, when we are hurt, can we be honest? Repair is how we heal breaks in intimacy. Repair is the act of taking accountability, recognizing another person's experience, while acknowledging your own participation and committing to doing things differently. All of this takes a lot of vulnerability, right? Intimacy, regardless of the type, is about vulnerability. How much of it we can stand, how much of it we can show, how much of it we can meet, how much of it we can feel. Learning to trust what you show, what you meet in others, what you feel. This journey of trust is yours for your whole life, and intimacy is your gateway through. Here are the journal prompts. Again, like last episode, I want you to pay attention to how the answers feel in your body. Honest answers. Okay. Number 1. How does the concept of emotional honesty land with you? Does it feel dangerous or does it feel free? Number 2. What emotions feel dangerous to you? Which emotions feel safe? Where do you feel them in your body? Number 3. Is there an emotion you never feel or don't let yourself feel or don't even understand? Can you explain why not? Number 4. Have you ever felt or always felt able to express quote unquote dangerous emotions? What does that feel like for you? Can you share that with someone? Number 5. When was the first time you realized you could say dangerous emotion and you would be okay? Number 6. Who is a person you remember telling that you were hurt by them? How did they react? How did you react, think, or feel to their reaction? Number 7. Has anyone told you they were hurt by you? How did you react? You definitely do not need to answer all of these questions, but these are the kind of questions you might want to discuss with your therapist if you have one, or with your partner or your best friend, wherever you feel a lot of trust between you. You could also journal, written or voice recording. I recommend voice for those for whom writing feels like a chore and it's relatively easy to get some privacy. You could meditate on the questions by sitting still or getting into some hard physical activity to get your body going and let your mind loose. However you answer these questions, see if you can pinpoint or paint a picture of what the answers feel like in your body. I say this because in your body is where your trust lies. There are so many ways to explore, dig into, or release the answers for these questions. And we will definitely dig into this whole concept further in a future episode. As with all the intimacies, approach this topic and these questions with as much listening and kindness you can muster. Okay. We've come to the end of the episode on emotional attraction and intimacy. Remember, the key word is honesty. Until next time, when you will get into physical attraction and physical intimacy. Not the same as sexual intimacy. Be curious, everyone, and be honest. Hi, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. I am Zoë Malcolm, and this is the Four Intimacies experiment, which I really hope will be a conversation for all of us. If this resonates with you at all, feel free to like, follow, or subscribe to the podcast. We are on YouTube, on the Four Intimacies channel, or wherever you can listen to your podcast. You can follow on Instagram at The Four Intimacies or email me using thefourintimacies@gmail.com. That's a lot of ads, but if you know someone who this might resonate with or with whom you want to talk about this, please do share. Let's be curious, honest, and playful together.